Hello everyone and welcome. Today we'll talk about Odyssey for the Sega Genesis / Mega Drive. This was published in America by Super Fighter Team, which, has released several other games in here. Now, this was originally made by a company called Starfish. And, one of those titles actually did come to America back in the actual day. What was it called? Steel Empire, I believe, if I remember correctly. But anyway, this game came out like about a year ago. And, oh boy. This isn't going to be a very positive review, sadly. Where do I begin? Well, it's a 16-bit console. But obviously, the Genesis wasn't 100% new for its, how could you say, superiority over the Super Nintendo. Not that I'm saying Genesis is bad. I have a lot of favorite Genesis games. But, it's easier to think of Star Odyssey as an 8-bit game, to be honest, because it really has a lot of elements from... It's a lot more 8-bit than a 16-bit RPG, to be honest. Every character has their own inventory, and you don't have like a infinite inventory area for management. All your store items and that have to be stored with everyone, which is much more like older RPGs, to be honest. Unless you played a lot of Dragon Quest. Which, if you're American, that wasn't very easy in the 16-bit generation. But, it's a little hard to talk about this. The story is interesting, different, because it's a sci-fi setting, and, well, for 16-bit generation, seeing a sci-fi setting was very different indeed. You really had the Phantasy Star games really being the really only sci-fi kind of RPGs back then. But everything else really seems to fail, in my opinion. You get a cast of characters that don't seem to have a large amount of differences to make them interesting. I mean, really, I found most of the characters to be useless, to be honest. In the magic that's referred to as the Force, didn't seem very useful through most of the game. It doesn't seem to scale normally when you level up. Like, a lot of times it just keeps doing the same damage. It eventually gets a little stronger, and I think that's because it only seems to get stronger when the elemental level of your Force powers increase, not like your stats. Since the element doesn't always level up every time you level. Overall, by the end of the game, most Force spells weren't really useful. And the final boss, in my opinion, was just a real joke in the game. It only has one attack, and it's just a massive attack it spams over and over again, similar to the original Final Fantasy III, the Darkness Cloud boss, where it only casted Flare. There's a reason they made that boss more interesting in the DS version. But, I mean, I don't know what to think of the game, because I don't think it's like an absolutely horrible game, but it's definitely not one I will probably remember very fondly, to be honest. I mean, the packaging, and by the way, this is an original Genesis case. I swapped it in an original Genesis one, since the case it originally came in was kind of junky. I think it looks a lot better. I mean, they really gave a nice presentation, a code book with art and everything in it. The story was interesting. In the beginning was probably definitely the funnest part of the game, in my opinion, than the later part. It's definitely an interesting end, and it's just kind of a mediocre middle and end. And it was kind of ridiculous. New characters joined you at level 1. That's such a strange thing these days, but it is an older game, but I don't know a lot of 16-bit games that did that to you. Like 18-bit, 8-bit that wasn't incredibly abnormal, but I can't say that it was really. It's really difficult for me to really comment on the game. The translation was pretty good. It was pretty nice. The graphics were decent for Genesis. I did like how the characters actually moved around when they took their turn a little. That was a bit interesting, because you didn't see a lot of movement usually in RPGs in the older times, usually it'd be like a few frames, and well, that was a few frames, but it was a little bit different perspective of it. At least for the, because this was an early Genesis game. This wasn't like late Genesis or anything. And if it was late Genesis, it would have been probably a really disappointing game even back then. But keeping that in mind still, I don't know. I can't say it's a really good RPG, to be honest. I feel it has a lot of imbalancement in it. I mean, like, for example, equipment. There's, like, no real equipment management. Like, it is there early on, and then every new character you get, there's a little gear for them, and then you get that, but then it drops off the face of the planet midway to the end. Because you hit no more planets with actual towns and that. And money's main use by the end of the game is just to get the best healing item, max out your inventory on it. So there's like no real equipment management by the end of the game. It's just early on, and then after you get everyone, get their gear, it's like it drops off the face of the planet. And some of the characters don't even have any real equipment. Two of them just wear a small piece of armor and that's it. It's a very melee-ish game in my opinion, because magic just seems so underused in the game, and it's so undermined. Like, the only real use magic has is to multi-target, and aside from that, it just doesn't seem very useful for most aspects, aside from lessening the encounter weight, which is huge. And it's not the thing that bothers me. Well, it kind of bothered me in my Let's Play, because I don't really want people watching random battles 500 times, you mean, me personally, it didn't really, like, you know, I play old RPGs, so, like, weird random encounters don't really, like, drive me insane, to be honest, but, it is a very high encounter weight. Like, you could literally run into several battles within just a few steps of each other. So, that's actually the biggest complaint most people have with this game. Pardon me. To be honest, if they make more copies of this game for its original price that Super Fighter Team did, if you're interested in it, yeah, I guess you could get it. It's not the worst thing ever made, but it's definitely a very unbalanced game in my opinion, and I can't say it's going to be a very memorable game to me. It was a little interesting, especially the beginning, like I said. There's some funny humor in it. It's well translated in that. But the challenge and the really disappointing final boss, just and equipment management downgraded, and the lack of magic focus, and it's more of a just keep hitting A and kill everything kind of grind or RPG, really, and some people like that. I don't mind that either. You know, I like it. Etna's Odyssey and the Dark Spiral. Yeah, it was the Dark Spiral. Wasn't, yeah. I like grinding games. I mean, I don't hate them or anything, but Really, there was a lot of things that disappointed me in this game. A lot of people, this game is sold out right now. If you go to the site, you can double check though. Don't just go and say, oh, well, I won't check. Because you can sign for a little thing to show you're interested in that, and once they get so many of that, they'll actually reprint them. So, if you're all interested in this game, go do that. Go to the site and sign up for the newsletter thing of that. That let me know. Email me when the game's available again. But don't go on eBay and buy the copies of this people are selling for like $2,000 or something. It's not worth that. It's not worth that. Those kind of prices are reserved for ultimately really good games, or possibly whale games. And I guess you could argue this is going to be a whale game because as a legal version, it might never be released again. But if you're looking for a really good RPG, I can't really recommend Odyssey. It's pretty disappointing in my opinion. Had a nice beginning, and it just loses focus and spirals out of control midway to the end. I mean, I always like to think all the game just leads up to you learning about all your characters, focusing your best strategy and usage of the party members presented to you, their equipment, their gear, and masterfully using everything you can to survive till the end of the game in the final match against the ultimate evil of the story and such. And the final boss in this game is just, I mean, go watch the final fight of it in my Let's Play. It's really just get your most leveled up people with lots of HP and use the most strongest thing you can and just keep healing when he can one-shot somebody. Until then, keep attacking when he can kill someone the next turn, heal, and it's really disappointing, to be honest. But I'm sorry I really don't have a lot of positive to say. Like, one thing I really liked was the opening when you start a new game. That was a really nice touch. Well, when you put the game in, that opening, but the presentation, the beginning of the game, and that's all good. But I just can't stress how it just feels like it's such a letdown once you get past some of the beginning stuff, and it just starts going downhill, really. Losing focus, a lot of the strategy. I just hate, like, even really old games have strategy, you know? You can't, if you lose the strategic part of the game, it just seems to become boring. But I don't really know. I don't think there's really a lot more I can say about Odyssey, to be honest. If you don't know the game, because this, you know, like I said, it only came out like a year ago in America. But, graphically, it's not really good looking when you compare it to a lot of 16-bit generation games. I mean, like I said, it is an early Genesis game, but... and I don't really mind the graphics myself, but most people would probably tell you the graphics look horrendous. I'd say they look a little interesting, but if you're going to compare them to, like, the best 16-bit stuff, they all pale in comparison. There's some interesting music in the game, though. That's probably one of the really positive things. If you, like, stand still a lot of the music, because of all the random encounters, you usually don't get to hear a lot of the music in the game. There's some pretty good music in the game, actually. A lot of the overworld themes and that on the different planets are pretty good sounding if you actually listen to them all. But a lot of times you don't get to hear most of it, even a little portion of it, because you keep running into random encounters so much. Which is a bit of a shame. But overall, I can't really recommend Odyssey. I just can't. I didn't really like it myself. As a collector, it's a nice thing to collect because, you know, it wasn't a bad. There were worse things. You could buy stuff way overpriced. If the game ever becomes available again, you could get it. There's far worse things out there, in my opinion. Considering when it came out, there was far worse things that exist in the RPG world. It's not like the worst thing in the universe, but it's definitely not one of my favorite either. It'll probably be forgotten in my collection. But if you never heard of it, go check out my Let's Play of it. I got a playlist of the full playthrough. It has lots of random battles, but I can't really recommend the game, which is a shame. But if you played Star Odyssey, or if you have a different opinion or something, you know, it's just an opinion, you know, don't get all bleh. But you know, feel free to comment. You know, I'd love to hear other people's opinions about the game, because I found it really hard to kind of talk about, because overall, I didn't really like it. But if you got any questions or anything, or your own opinion of what you thought about the game, I'd love to hear it. Thank you, leave a comment, and thank you for watching, and I hope I see you next time.